Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pirates in the Field podcast. This is episode 2 of the World Cup edition. My name is Manny Pereira. Next to me is Niamh Campbell, and what a weekend we had. What a weekend, everything included.
It was the perfect start to the tournament, I would say. We had, how many was it? 12 groups play, 24 games. I mean, I watched every single one of them and just have to take advantage in this time. And my goodness, did we get some amazing football.
I think the most overrated take ever is that you don't get that many upsets in this tournament, which, I mean, objectively is kind of true, but not this week. So much drama and so many narratives. I mean, couldn't ask for more. And we're going to get right into everything. We're going to start with the host nations and how they did, because obviously my take was kind of circling around social media about the United States, but we'll start with Mexico first. Tell me about Mexico, Niamh.
So, yeah, I mean, Mexico was the first game. June 11th happened in Mexico City, in the Estadio Azteca. I mean, that was an insane game.
Yeah.
Like, I think that Mexico, obviously they got, started off on the right foot, did exactly what they needed to, got that win, 2 goals. Great to see Jimenez score as well,
100%.
After dealing with everything with the skull fracture. 3 red cards in that game.
Yeah.
2 goals to 3 red cards. Like, that is ridiculous. Like, that was just how kind of messy and all over the place this game was. I mean, South Africa didn't look settled at all. You get 2 red cards in the game. And now, we're looking at 3 players being banned for, a game to 3 games now.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous. And I think that Mexico did a good job of kind of handling the situation and handling the pressure. Just to give you some perspective, in the Qatar tournament in 2022, there were only 4 red cards in the whole tournament. Mm-hmm. We haven't seen a red card since that game, but to get things going, watching that game, I was like, this is going to be a crazy week and a bit of football.
Yeah, and honestly, if there was a game where there was going to be this much physicality, you'd probably circle this one if you had to pick one, just because of the crowd and the way that these fans get so into it in Mexico City, a home World Cup for a team that always makes it to this tournament, a team that is used to pretty much always getting out of the group stage. They broke their streak in 22 when they couldn't get out of it, but they have pretty high expectations. It's a very respected and honorable selection. I mean, soccer program, I guess, in Mexico. And just the emotions, first game of the World Cup, you're opening the tournament, and guys got a little bit too aggressive. But, I mean, I personally, like you said, seeing Jimenez score, I feel pretty good about this Mexico team, definitely getting past the group stage. And we talked about how home field advantage can play a huge factor, and I think it's gonna impact them more positively than the other 2 nations, Canada and the United States, just because how awesome that atmosphere is in Mexico City. And we saw it a little bit last night. Those were the Colombian fans in that stadium. The Mexico fans, I mean, they just take it up a notch. It was really incredible to watch.
Yeah, I think that having that home field advantage in this tournament is going to be so important for Mexico. I think for Canada and the United States as well, but just the passion that the Mexican fans have towards the sport, it just completely outshines the U.S. fans and the Canadian ones too.
No doubt. And we're going to see we're going to talk a little bit about some of their antics later in the episode that the Mexican fans were doing. Now let's move on. Canada, not as high-flying, not as high of vibes in Toronto. They opened up 1-1 draw against Bosnia. What did you think about the performance from the Canadian team?
Out of all 3 host nations, I was most worried about Canada's first game.
Yeah.
I wasn't as convinced about this Canadian side as I was about the U.S. and Mexico getting the job done in their first game, and I think that they managed to save themselves by getting that goal late in the second half. It was a bit of a scare. I wasn't convinced by their attack, though. And I do have to say that Canada was missing Alphonso Davies in that first game, and he is such a crucial part of this team. He really does need to be around. But Jonathan David, I mean, he didn't really do anything for me in that game. Like, he was just not present. They were saved by Kyle Larin, who came in and got that goal for them. Shout out to the Big East and UConn. That's where he went.
Here you go.
But I would say that Canada was the one I was most skeptical about, and they really proved that for me in that game.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, it's just so disappointing just because it was in Toronto and there was a little bit of concern going into it. But I just thought that Bosnia, obviously not being the most prestigious soccer program in the world, they're in their area.
Well, they're not the most prestigious, but the reason I was worried is because you can't count Bosnia out.
Yeah.
Like, Bosnia, stopped Italy from getting into the World Cup. Like, this is a team that should not be messed around with. And so for Canada, I was a little bit worried, and kind of a good thing that they ended up getting that draw.
Yeah, you could say that. Also, another thing is, I mean, what most disappointed me is not as many. Yeah, they had 13 shots, only 4 of those on target. So their efficiency was not good at all. And Bosnia pretty much almost matched those shots on goal with 3 of their own. So there wasn't, like you said, it's not like it was a game where you walk out of there feeling like, okay, maybe it looked like they'll catch some momentum and carry it forward with that home crowd, which, we're going to talk about, I guess, a lot during this tournament, as long as these 3 teams are still around. But no, we didn't. Neither of us, especially you're saying it right now, kind of didn't get that vibe in terms of positivity, a little bit of momentum going into their next game. So they got some work to do. We'll see what happens. Also, shout out to the Bosnia fans who took over Toronto, which was awesome. This tournament is great.
No, there was a lot of blue in that stadium.
Yeah.
I was looking around. I was like, "Where's all the red right now?"
Literally, it was awesome. All right, now to the big dogs, the United States of America, who opened at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California, although they do say it's Los Angeles, and I like to say MetLife's not in New York. It's in East Rutherford, New Jersey. But, 4-1 victory, and probably the best this team has looked, the United States team has looked in, 16 years in this World Cup?
I was very, very impressed, surprisingly impressed with the performance that the Pochettino side had, to open up the game. We were a little bit worried about kind of how they're going to deal with the pressure and all the talk and all the publicity going around the team, just given that they're the hosts as well. But a 4-1 victory, absolutely take it. I mean, I will say that Paraguay looked a little shell-shocked, to be honest. They did not look very comfortable or confident in that game. But I would say it was because of just the performance that the United States put on. I would say that the United States put on the best performance in a half by a single team that round. Those 3 goals that came in that first half, the brace that Balogun had within 15 minutes of each other, like that was a top class performance from him. And I think that they were poised, they were controlled, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're going to do in the rest of the group stage.
And what was really, I guess, it was really encouraging is the word I'm looking for this United States team, is that going into this game, Paraguay, we expected to win, but it's a style of soccer that they play that the United States tends to struggle against, which is kind of that passive, laid-back, defensive style of game. And they just kept making the right pass. They were very precise and timely throughout this game. Not that I'm this huge soccer guru, but what you said about them kind of being poised, and evidence of that is the fact that they scored a goal at the end of the half. So it wasn't like they were kind of laid back. It was kind of on go the whole time, aggressive, and they scored a goal, that Gio Reyna goal, which I was so happy about at the end of the game. In the 90th minute.
Shout out Gio Reyna for the pregnancy reveal as well. With that goal too.
Good for that was awesome. So Reyna, who in the 90th minute scored, and then in the 45th minute you have Balogun score his second goal of the half. I mean, it just showed that this team is playing with a chip on their shoulder. They're on a mission right now. They understand that this is supposed to be the year, kind of like I was saying in the last episode, and that the fact that they are at home is a golden opportunity that is once in a lifetime, and that they seem to not want to pass up at all. And the fact that they played the way they did, scoring 4 goals, and Pulisic hasn't really gotten that hot yet, that's great sign.
No, I mean, they didn't. The biggest thing is that they didn't allow the moment to take over from the task at hand. They got the job done, and that's exactly what they needed to do.
Yeah, no doubt. And it easily could have been a shutout, which it wasn't, but it's okay. 4-1 victory. We'll take that. And they have a huge game coming up, which we'll talk about shortly. But before that, we're going to do a few segments here, and we're going to start with our biggest concern. And Niamh, actually, we'll have you start. What was your biggest concern after the first slate of games?
So in the last episode, if you remember, the one thing that I was worried about was how the South American teams were going to perform. I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But Brazil. I'm still concerned about Brazil. I was concerned about them in the last episode, and I'm still concerned after the game against Morocco. They just did not prove anything to me yet. And maybe they will in due time. Maybe they will, in their game against Haiti coming up. But I was not convinced by them. Morocco looked like the higher ranked side. So coming into this game, Brazil were 6th, Morocco were 8th. It looked like Morocco were much higher ranked than them. They played a better game. Brazil were so slow to start with.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not the Brazilian football that I'm used to seeing. They were sluggish. They weren't able to get the passes that they needed to. They had one shining moment from Vinicius to be able to get that equalizer in like the 30-something minute during that game. But overall, I was not wowed by anything that they did on the pitch.
Yeah, Vinicius Jr. didn't even play that well, I would say, throughout the whole game. He just was brilliant for one play, and it really was a brilliant play, which is what tied the game. And I agree with you. I wasn't impressed at all, and I picked this team to make a semi, kind of regretting that now. Probably should have listened to Niamh, which is, you could say, is a little bit reactionary, but all the concerns that people had going into this tournament, they really amplified in that one game, the concerns about Brazil. And I agree with you. I don't know if it's time to press the panic button, but it is very evident that we're probably headed towards another disappointing result for Brazil. And it has to do with kind of always the same things. I mean, the chemistry didn't seem great at all, and their star players weren't playing to the level that you would expect them to, which they can still bail you out like Vinicius Jr. did with that one play. I just agree. I think there's other teams that we saw this week that are going to be able to take care of them going forward.
Yeah, Ancelotti's going to have to kind of do a good reset and have a look and figure out what exactly went wrong. And I think one of the things that went wrong was they're defending on the wings.
Yeah.
There are so many great wingers in this tournament, Vinicius being one of them, but you got to make sure that you can defend them as well. So when they're coming at you, you need to make sure that you've got the right person on the pitch to be able to slow them down, to be able to have that defensive stop. And I don't think that Brazil had that in that game. And hopefully, they can go back to base camp and keep working on that.
Yeah, because to be fair, Morocco is an excellent team. This is a team that finished in 4th place in the last World Cup and definitely has the means to make another run in this tournament. So we'll see going forward. Still a lot left in this tourney. We'll talk about my concern now. And I picked Spain to win the entire thing. So if you've been keeping up, you're probably like, Manny, you're awfully quiet about Spain, which is obviously one of the bigger stories in this tournament and after the first slate of games. And my biggest concern isn't necessarily about the team, because I still think this team is excellent. But I said that Yamal would obviously be the one to have to maybe not carry, but be the superstar of the squad if they're going to hold the trophy by the end of this tournament. And obviously his hamstring, and he's been kind of hurt, and that's been something that people have been talking about. But his coaches and everyone around kind of the Spanish team and in the media were saying, yeah, it's not anything to be too concerned about. We're going to play it conservative by not playing him. And obviously maybe he'll get some minutes at the end of the game to kind of get his feet wet, etc. I do think that this is a game, especially with Uruguay and Saudi Arabia in this group. This is one of the tougher groups in the entire first round of the tournament that they had to have. They had to beat Cape Verde. That's what I felt. We didn't really talk about it because we just expected that they would win like 5-0. It wasn't the case. So when it's 0-0 and your offense is playing a very inefficient brand of football, 27 shots, only 7 of those on goal. Why isn't your best player, who you say is healthy, why isn't he on the pitch earlier in that game? So my concern is not that they're mismanaging it. My concern is that he's actually hurt. And if Lamine Yamal is really hurt, then I don't think Spain can beat France. In fact, with the way the U.S. looks, maybe if they play in a quarterfinal, who knows who I would pick there. No, but in all seriousness, I'm very concerned about Yamal's injury and the way that Spain is going to look without him if he is hurt.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Luis de la Fuente is saying that, the injury's okay and they're managing more his game fitness levels, and that's why he didn't come in early. Also, Nico Williams came in, at the same time.
Yeah.
You're talking 20 minutes left in a game where Vosinha, the Cape Verde goalkeeper, has been playing on fire.
Excellent.
Stellar performance from him. And you want to go get that point and you don't bring them on until, the 71st minute. Yeah. You have to bring them on. And, if you look at the way that Yamal played during that game in, the 20 minutes that he had, I'm going to pull it up here so that I can get the stats right. He had 36 touches and he produced 2 shots within that time, and he had 2 duels won. He was matching stats of people who had been on the entire time.
The entire time.
And just in 19 minutes.
Yeah.
That's how much of an impact he has. So if he's healthy, he better be starting in the next game.
No, he has to. And now you kind of don't leave much room for error because you obviously need to win this group. Saudi Arabia and Uruguay just tied. You hope that that's more of Uruguay not being as good as they've been in years past, and Saudi Arabia kind of being more of the same, a frisky team, but not a serious threat. Or they're both good, and you have your hands full for the rest of this round, which won't set you up well for the rest of this tournament if they do not win this group. I still think that they'll make a run. I still think, obviously, what's in the back of my mind is the fact that Argentina lost 3-1 against Saudi Arabia in their first game last World Cup, and they ended up winning the whole thing and didn't lose a game the rest of the way. So maybe Spain does the same thing, which would probably be a little bit more impressive because they tied and they didn't lose. But I don't know. I just think Yamal needs to be on the pitch, and like you said, even when he was still super impactful. Didn't translate to a goal, and we'll talk about why that was the case very shortly. What a game, what a story. But now we'll go into the biggest surprise, and a lot to talk about here because a lot of fans all over the world were very shocked throughout this week. So what shocked you, Niamh?
Shock for me. Do not turn off your TV if you think that the game is over.
Yeah.
The amount of late game winners and or equalizers that we had, absolutely ridiculous. And I'm going to list them off here because it was insane. South Korea,
it's okay.
My bad, guys. South Korea, Oh Hyung-gu, 80th minute. Canada, Kyle Larin, 78th minute. Qatar, Mira Muheim, own goal in the 94th minute. Wow. That was a Switzerland player who gave Qatar that goal. Japan, Daichi Kamada, 89th minute. Ivory Coast, Amad Diallo, 90th minute. Uruguay, Maximiliano Araujo, 80th minute. Just yesterday, Ghana, Caleb Yerenki, 95th minute winner against Panama.
Yeah.
If you are turning your TV off before the 75th minute, you're going to miss something
100%.
In this tournament. And the fact that we had seven late game winners or equalizers, I was glued to my TV.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's what we live for because no one likes boring soccer.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more fun than late game drama. There was a lot of that this week. I hope the trend continues. I'll talk about my surprise. The entire continent of Africa, maybe not the entire because there were a few disappointing performances with some African teams, but a lot of African teams were excellent and shocked the entire world during this tournament. And we already talked about Morocco, who tied against Brazil. Maybe not the biggest shocker, but a very impressive outing. Ivory Coast, who won against Ecuador. I know a lot of Ecuadorian people. I'm friendly with a lot of them. They love their soccer. They're back in the World Cup. And they thought in Philly, where obviously there's a lot of Ecuadorians as well, they got first game against Ivory Coast. That'll be a win. Was not the case. Ivory Coast shocked them, won 1-0.
No, I was watching that game with my dad. I don't think he has ever been as invested in Ivory Coast football than he was in that game.
It was incredible, honestly. What a this is their first World Cup ever, too, if I'm not mistaken. Ivory Coast?
No, Ivory Coast has been it before. I can actually tell you, but never really kind of gotten too far through. They've always had They've always had good performances, but let's have a look here. The Ivory Coast's best World Cup performance has been the group stage. Never made it through most recently in 2014, so it's been a while.
2014, okay, so that's why I don't remember. I apologize. Anyways, moving on. Egypt, 1-1 tie against Belgium. Belgium is they're not that good. Well, Egypt's always been kind of a respectable soccer team, especially in this tournament. They always kind of make a little bit of noise, and not a ton, but they're not an easy out. They played well. Cape Verde, we talked about it, 0-0 tie against one of the favorites in this tournament. DR Congo, 1-1 tie against Portugal yesterday, another shocking result. And then, like you said, Ghana, 1-0 victory. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 impressive, right? Did I count that right?
Yep.
Yeah, 6 very impressive outings from the African teams. And the team I was personally most impressed with was Congo, who tied 1-1, which already in and of itself is excellent, awesome, great for that country. First point ever in a World Cup game. But they probably should have won that game. And I would argue that at the end of that game, if they were a little bit less antsy, because they started feeling it. They started like, oh my gosh, we might beat Portugal. This will be the most historic thing to ever happen in the history of sports in our country, probably, definitely, if they would have beaten Portugal. And that one shot, I believe it was maybe in the 80-something minute, or maybe a little earlier, for DR Congo, a little bit behind the box. We'll probably show it if we post this, or if we have a chance, maybe we could put it on YouTube. I'm not sure, but if he lets that pass get a little deeper, we were talking about it off the air before the show. That shot that missed up and away to the left, he lets that pass get a little deeper. It's in, and Congo wins.
Yeah,
they beat Portugal.
I agree. Congo looked like a great side. Yesterday. And I think that one of the most impressive things about these AFCON teams is the fact that they're not holding back.
Yeah.
I think that every single one of these games that I watched, all of them were being aggressive. All of them were going after the goals. Like, no matter who they were playing, I mean, pretty much everybody played a team that was higher ranked than them. Didn't look like it at all.
No doubt.
They were playing incredible. They were playing, with passion and confidence and commitment, and it was a great watch for each one of these.
Yeah, no doubt. And I agree with that. I thought Congo, when watching that game, I was like, all right, maybe now they'll just settle for the tie and do everything they can to just tie, and that would be excellent for their nation. They were going for the win. And you could argue Cape Verde was also doing the same, although their backline was incredible. Very, very good. And we talked about their goalkeeper as well, who gained a ton of followers on Instagram, which we'll get into shortly. Now, we'll talk about what impressed us the most. So we'll keep the energy a little bit higher now, positive. What impressed you the most after 1 week of football, Niamh?
Goalkeeping. Goalkeeping in this tournament has been incredible so far. And I want to shout out a couple of goalkeepers specifically. First off, I mean, we've been talking about the Spain and the Cape Verde game. Vozinha, 40-year-old goalkeeper from Cape Verde. He had a clean sheet against the number 2 ranked Spain, 7 saves, 1 big chance stopped, and 1 cross claimed during the game. Absolutely incredible performance to get that point for his team. A wonderful watch, great character as well to be on the pitch. Australia, Patrick Beach, young goalkeeper from Melbourne City FC. He took the starting place over captain of the Socceroos and veteran goalkeeper Matt Ryan. He had a clean sheet in that game against Turkey. 8 saves, 2 big chances stopped, and 1 key save during the game. He looked like the veteran goalkeeper in that game. Looked incredible. Saudi Arabian goalkeeper Mohamed Al-Awais had the round high 9 saves in that one. 2 clearances, 1 big chance stopped when they were playing against Uruguay. Really stopped Uruguay from having what could have been, 3 or 4 goals in that game. And then just yesterday, Croatia, Dominik Livakovic, 7 saves against England. 2 big chances stopped, 1 clearance, 1 key save. I know that England ended up putting 4 past him, but it would have been a lot more had it not been for him. I remember watching a sequence in that game in the second half, and it was like, shot, he saved it, rebound, shot again, stopped it, came back, went off of the defender, he picked it up. I was like, I wanted the ball to go in the back of the net. I was like, what? This man is on fire right now. Like, can he calm down? I want the ball to go through. But just some incredible goalkeeping, specifically from keepers that we did not have our eye on at all before this tournament.
Yeah, and to talk about the Croatian goalkeeper, I thought that was the best game you can have when allowing 4 goals as the goalie, which we're going to talk about a little bit shortly. And you can argue 4 shouldn't have gone past him. He had an extra save in that penalty, that first attempt from Kane, and obviously it was an offside. You would call that? What was it?
just stepped off the line too early.
Stepped off the line a little bit too early. So other than that, though, he was awesome, and I thought that Croatia looked really good. We're going to talk about that shortly. For me, what impressed me most, other than the goalkeeping, because I agree with you, and great goalkeeping is always very fun to watch. Who impressed me the most? Someone who I probably shouldn't have been that impressed because I should have just expected it. Lionel Messi, who at this age puts up a hat trick in the first game to open the World Cup for a team that usually starts a little bit slow in the World Cup, and even in the last World Cup that they won, he had a goal against Saudi, but that was a loss. Had a goal against Mexico, didn't do much against Poland, but he really took off once the elimination game started in that round of 16 going forward, and then we know, obviously, what he did against France where he scored a pair. I think Messi is still very much hungry for another trophy. I think that he believes, obviously, that he's the best player of all time. He knows that no one has repeated since England in 62, I believe.
Yeah, it was Brazil back in 58-62.
Oh, it was Brazil?
Yeah.
Okay, so Brazil back in...
I would have loved it to be England, but
yeah, 62.
Not right now.
And he wants to be the guy to do it. He wants to be the guy to break that drought. And another thing, too, which I thought was hilarious, is that all the, Bleacher Report, so on and so forth, posting Mbappe has officially passed Lionel Messi for all-time World Cup goals, and that lasted about 6 hours once Messi put 3 on the board. So I thought it was awesome and great to watch because as we get older, we feel like, oh, shoot, like our childhood, superstars are kind of passing, and it doesn't feel the same. And I felt like a little kid again watching Messi, so it was cool.
No, it was a brilliant performance from Messi. Loved every second of it. And the marquee names in attack right now, in those forward positions, are really, proving themselves this tournament. You got Messi with a hat trick. You had Haaland with a brace. You had Mbappe with a brace. You had Kane with a brace. You have other players like Balogun with a brace. Elijah Just of New Zealand with a brace.
Yeah,
we are getting some incredible goal scoring and attacking performances right now. So I'm just really, really stoked to see what's going to happen in these upcoming games as well.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm very excited, and we love it when the superstars come out and actually play like superstars in this World Cup. And an interesting segue to go from that to talk about now the biggest disappointments of this tournament. And I'm going to talk about a superstar, but I'll hold that for now. Niamh, what disappointed you the most in this 1 week?
So I kind of mentioned it when I was talking about Brazil being a concern.
Yeah.
My disappointment of the week was the South American teams. So the only 2 wins that we got in South America were Colombia last night and Argentina. There was one loss, that was Ecuador, and we had a couple of draws as well, Brazil and Uruguay included. Actually, 2 losses because Paraguay lost to the U.S. as well. I knew that going into this tournament that the South American teams were going to struggle, and it really just proved it for me this week. I think that there are teams that are going to make it through. Obviously, I still think that Brazil's going to make it through. I still think that Argentina's going to make it through. I have strong feelings that Uruguay and Ecuador will, and Colombia will. Paraguay's the only one that I'm not too convinced about, but I just don't see them going the distance. And I think that that's been a concern for me since the beginning. And after seeing these slate of games and seeing all 6 teams play in their first games, I'm still not convinced.
Yeah, I agree. I think right now it's kind of interesting because, South America or South American country is the most recent team to win the World Cup. But I agree. Other than that, other than Argentina, and what's most frustrating really is Brazil, just because this is supposed to be the premier soccer team in the world, soccer nation in the world. And they just haven't looked that way. Obviously, Ecuador was a tough loss. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's something that we got to maybe have an eye out for. And the fact that they went 2-1 and 3 draws in the first week of the tournament where you don't play the best competition, that's a little bit concerning going forward. So my biggest disappointment is a man who usually gets praised, and maybe half of soccer fans in the world kind of hate him, which I think is ridiculous. I've never gotten into the debate. But Cristiano Ronaldo, who was the talk of the town after game number 1 for Portugal. A lot of controversy, a lot of drama, a lot of Messi fans rubbing it in the face of Ronaldo fans. But for me, who I don't really pick a side, although I do think Messi's better than Ronaldo, I'm not going to argue passionately about it. I was very disappointed just because, as I said earlier, one thing that I love is to see superstars, especially older superstars, kind of have that, like just show off. I just want to see them show off. I want to see them play well. I want to see them make history. We love seeing history as sport fans. And after seeing Messi not only win the World Cup, but also start this one off with a hat trick, we expected something big off Ronaldo, and I think the burden was a little bit too heavy. Ronaldo's someone who has not really played well lately in this world, in this tournament at all, and especially 4 years ago, where in 11 appearances, only 1 goal. And that was a penalty. And we talked about how he was kind of getting subbed out and didn't have a great relationship with the previous coach. And I thought that he had a few golden opportunities to be the hero, to win the game, to be on the headline. And he just missed. Yeah, his passes weren't great, but I don't want to hear complaints about the midfield when you're supposed to be apparently the greatest player ever. We don't complain about passes. If you're the greatest player ever, you just find a way. I mean, you just find a way to score, especially against a team like DR Congo. I'm not asking you to do it against France in the final. I'm asking you to do it in the first game. I was very disappointed. Very, very disappointed with his performance. And I was also disappointed with the fact that they were trying to force feed him. And you can tell that they were trying to force feed him.
Yeah.
And it was just so hard to watch. It was like watching Portugal at the end of the game. And if you're watching it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It was like when you feel like you're about to sneeze and you just don't sneeze. And it was so frustrating because they had so many opportunities in that second half, especially Ronaldo, and he came up short. So personally, I was very disappointed.
Okay, first of all, incredible analogy. Would have to agree with that. And I kind of want to link this to Josue Moran, who messaged us through Instagram, asked us what our takes were on CR7. So I hope that Manny kind of answered that, and then kind of added on as well. He said, there's no chance that people saw the game and said that he's the only problem there. And I kind of just wanted to touch upon that quickly as well. It's true. Nobody on Portugal really played together yesterday. It was very much a lot of individual performances. There was no camaraderie. There was no chemistry within that team. But one of the things that I talked about, which is why I chose Portugal as my dark horse for this tournament, was the amount of depth that they had. And that's not only the depth that you get from your bench, that's the depth that you have on the pitch as well. Ronaldo does not need to be the main man anymore. Yeah. There is no need, like you said, to force feed him the ball, to get him in front of the face of goal. We don't need to do that anymore. I mean, we saw their goal come from Neves. You've got...
Which, what a goal, by the way. Oh, my gosh.
Exactly. You've got Pedro Neto down the wing. You've got Bruno Fernandes sitting in that midfield, arguably their best player on the pitch right now after the performance that he had with Man U this season. It does not all have to be about Ronaldo, and a part of that, I think, was because the fact that the day before it had been Mbappe. Okay, Haaland, let me match that. Okay, Messi, let me do better than that.
Yeah.
It was one after the other, and I think that a little bit of that was we were hoping Ronaldo would kind of meet that level too, but we forget that Portugal has so much talent.
Yeah.
So everybody needs to step up, and I think that they're going to go back to training base this week and be like, okay, we need to get more people involved, and we need to play as a team. It's not all about giving the ball to the number 7 in the front.
And I think it starts in the midfield, because when Vitinha and Fernandes were on the pitch together, it wasn't too pretty in terms of, like, you just felt like a little bit of a tug of war. And like you said, it was too much playing for themselves, not much camaraderie, which, by the way, I understand. Because both of those guys believe that they're probably the best or top 5 midfielder in the world. And it's a little hard to then all of a sudden be like, especially in the tournament that means the most to you, to be like, oh, no, you got to take a step back. You're not the guy right now. That's hard. That's difficult to not only – because they're going to say all the right things. They're going to say the right things to their coaches. I I don't think it's necessarily an ego issue.